This is Technology for Humans, tech through the eyes of its leaders. Produced by Reinteractive, a Ruby on Rails development company. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Amanda Perino, who you may know as the Executive Director of the Rails Foundation. Amanda, you've held this job for a couple of years, is that correct?
Yeah, we're going on 4 years now, actually.
Wow. I want to get into a whole bunch of things here, but maybe tell us, how did you land this role? What were you doing before?
So before I was working for the HashiCorp events team, putting on their large-scale conferences. And it's a little bit serendipity how I came across this role, because at the time I had no programming experience and we were working for developers, creating experiences for developers. And I thought to myself, it would be better if I understood what a developer goes through on the day-to-day basis in their work in order to create better experiences. So I ended up taking a boot camp that just taught Rails. I didn't actually choose a boot camp to teach me Rails. And towards the end of it, DHH announced the Rails Foundation to improve documentation, education. And I was like, that's great. And when I looked at the job description for the executive director that they were looking for, I realized I ticked all the boxes. I had marketing experience, education experience, didn't have documentation experience, but I had strong thoughts about the documentation and events experience. So it was a little bit serendipity how I came into the role.
So you've had to wrap your head around the more technical aspect of the role. I guess understanding, you wouldn't have to be an expert in Rails, but you certainly would have to understand a fair amount.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they had on the job description. It would be nice if you had familiarity with Rails, but you don't necessarily have to be an expert, because this role the foundation isn't about governance. It's really just about support for developers. So I did take the boot camp, but it's a fun challenge to continue to try to understand Rails at the level that I am at, to serve the community who's much more highly technical. There's a little bit of a gap there, but it just keeps me going and it keeps me interested. And it also keeps me at the level of, if we're trying to attract new developers into Rails and they're learning these things for the first time, that's kind of the language that I'm speaking as well.
Yeah.
So for instance, keeping the documentation friendly and user friendly, the tutorials, it helps a lot with that.
And we're certainly at this point in Rails, and I think we'll get into this a little bit more, but attracting new people into the ecosystem, into the community. So someone in your position, you're very well grounded to be able to do that.
Yeah, I hope so. That is an interesting conversation that I'm sure we'll get to, because it's going to be quite a challenge, I think.
Yeah. So I think in this day, I think this is very important. I'm just going to lay the groundwork with some things that I understand to be true, and perhaps you can correct me with things that you might know. I've been talking to developers for a long, long time. I've been in the industry 20 odd years, I think. But I've been doing a lot more of the sales role, I guess, for the last probably 5 or 6 years. And so in doing that, I talk to a lot of CTOs and engineering leaders and senior developers and so on. The last 12 months have been the most interesting conversations as everyone comes to grips with how the industry is changing. Now, this time last year, up to around August, in conversations with people, most people said to me their workflow has improved about 20 to 30% as a result of using AI tools. And then that rapidly changed, and I think it was around December, maybe January, but I think more December, where that changed to 90%. And I think that's where we're at today. Now, I could be wrong on that, but that's my experience, and it is the experience of my team. What's your understanding of that? Or what do you think is the current position?
Question first, when they're telling you this, if you're speaking to, for instance, CTOs versus senior developers, is it AI tooling for coding or actually operational workflows?
For coding, because I haven't yet met anybody who's able to replace the skill set involved with project management. There's some tools and agents that are around that, but it still takes someone discerning to be able to figure out what to ask for and to check what comes out.
Yeah, exactly. that feels very, very aligned with what I'm seeing as well, especially with developers. Like everybody is using, I think 90% is even conservative. I think everybody, except for a few diehards who don't want to because they just don't believe in it. Mm-hmm. And I say a few, it's more than like a handful, but it's a small percentage. They're using it, whether they are fully into it or not, they're using it because if they don't, they're going to be left behind in some way, or everyone else on the team is using it and you just have to at the moment. I've been thinking about what that means for the Rails Foundation's mission in support of all the developers who are using it. We'd be a fool not to consider that in some way. Yes. And this is something that, like, going through the whole mission, it deserves another fresh look through the lens of AI right now.
I think this is true for all of us. I mean, certainly for the foundation, but for anybody who's a developer, who's a business using Rails, and certainly for agencies who sell that as a service, which Reinteractive is one, and there's many that I speak to. We're having to readjust an entire business model, I think. Now, I'm glad that Reinteractive specializes in Rails, because I think there are some programming languages that don't lend themselves to this tooling as well. Is that something you've seen or you've heard?
You know, when it comes to other programming languages, I'm not sure. I know a lot of people these are just very anecdotal conversations that I've been having where people are saying, okay, Python, maybe I should learn Python, or Go. Because a lot of Go is getting more and more popular. I'm not even sure how long it's been around. And so I have these conversations going, well, you know, like, why not Ruby and why not Rails? You're at the point now, AI is at the point now where you need to understand what the output is to understand if it's doing it correctly, if it's not hallucinating. And Ruby and Rails are very, very good for that. And I don't know personally about Python or Go. I think Python is fairly friendly. I did a tiny course in it.
Yeah, I think it is fairly friendly. It's not probably the right language for a lot of things. Like if you're writing a...
Like or something.
Yeah, I mean, people will disagree with me who are listening to this, no doubt. But I think Python is good for some types of applications. But if I wanted to write a business app, I would not be using Python.
So then this is one of the things I was thinking about this week, because we have a board meeting and we're discussing all this. Who's going to be making the decision of which language to choose soon? You know, right. I don't know if it's going to be developers making the decision anymore. I think it's going to default to, what does my agent recommend that I use? So one of the challenges I think the Rails Foundation is facing is, you know, marketing is one of our pillars. Marketing, improve marketing events, education, and documentation. A lot of these are greatly being changed and influenced by this AI tsunami that we're all faced with. Marketing specifically, it's not that the messaging is going to change. You know, Rails is solid, Rails is stable, it's been around for 20 years, convention over configuration. The messaging is very much the same, but who are we talking to now? Who are we trying to convince? And how do we get the LLMs or the AI agents to pick up on that when the developer is no longer going to be making that choice? And these are all things we're like wrestling with right now.
Right.
As well as trying to understand how the community is using AI in their own workflows, as well as me personally looking at the foundation's workload and thinking, what can AI do for me and my operational workload? So far, I haven't found an answer to that. Exactly what you're saying. Like, it's not there.
There'll be something.
Yeah. So all these, like, it's just questions upon questions right now with no real answers, which is an exciting and terrifying time to be alive. And I'm so glad I'm seeing it for the first time.
Exciting, terrifying.
Yeah.
All of those. Absolutely.
Like, who has answers? Can somebody please give me answers? Because right now
I'm going to give you my opinions on some of these things. And they're probably more than opinions, because they're practical experience, not just from myself, but other developers that I know. A couple of things. One is that if I was a developer and I had no idea, well, not a developer, if I was interested in developing, I wanted to build applications and I didn't know how to read code, or at least not read it well enough to critique what the output is, I would want a programming language that's going to keep me within certain guardrails and be able to make decisions on my behalf so that I don't have to make those decisions. And that is Rails.
I was going to say, I got a framework for you.
Now we know that. How does the guy over there know that? They don't know that, and that is the challenge. Because if you say to your machine, pick a language, I want to write an app, you figure it out. It's going to go Python, it's going to go Node, React, probably one of those three or combination thereof.
But what does it? So then the question is, what does it get that information from? The agent working with the LLM, like where
does it get that information from?
That information? Is that
my assumption is it gets it from somewhere like GitHub, and how many applications are written with what language and how many stars did those repositories get? Something like that, possibly. Yeah. I could be wrong.
Or maybe similar applications as well as like another filter. Okay, you want to build this sort of application. Okay, on GitHub, a lot of companies are built. Okay, interesting. That's a harder thing to tackle. We just kind of throw lots of repos in GitHub to feed the LLMs. I mean, we already have Rails and Ruby already has a lot of repos, and that's obviously what, Anthropic trains their LLM on and stuff like that. But what we can do as the Rails Foundation is continue to put other forms of content out there in the hopes that the messaging comes through, like we are doing case studies, telling stories built on Rails. So at least it's the more conversational business case study of the repo that you can maybe find. Mostly it's going to be private in the case studies that we're doing. Or video content. I don't know, are LLMs also pointing towards YouTube and scanning YouTube? This is what we can do. And maybe there's other things that maybe there's other sources that I haven't been able to think about yet. And this is, like I said, we have a board meeting this week, and this is a conversation I'll have with the board of like, what do we need to change in the way that we approach our mission when it comes to this? So
there's another thing that I've noticed as well over that period of time, and this is anecdotal as well, is that there is this subject called vibe coding, which is not what practiced and experienced developers do. Practiced and experienced developers do what I would term human in the loop coding. That is, they are a human and a machine and pairing, and that works well. Vibe coding, I don't think is a real thing. I don't think it works. I don't think there's any actual applications on the market, I could be wrong, that are production enterprise that were vibe coded.
And vibe coding is just kind of letting the agent just saying like, yes, 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 go, 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 right?
I think it's defined as someone who knows nothing at all about programming and goes, build me an app that does whatever, build me the next Uber or something like that.
I would also be surprised. I would also be highly suspicious of these apps. I would love to know before committing to using any application if it was vibe coded for security purposes. My dad.
100%. Yeah. Yes, the questions that we would know to ask are not the questions that a vibe coder would know to ask, Yeah,
exactly. So this is also one thing that I think is really, really interesting right now, because I see a lot of developers online, less so in conversations that I've had. I see a lot of developers online stressing about, programming is over, our jobs are becoming obsolete, like this sort of weird thought process. But I put out a call on LinkedIn saying, I'm looking for people who have used AI in their operations. This is a very operational role to help their workflows. So several people were kind enough to like hop on a call with me to show me what they're doing, mostly with Claude Bot, Claude WD.
Yep.
And to see what you need to do to get Claude Bot working on your own machine and the things that you have to keep in mind. The average Joe cannot do that right now.
Not a chance.
Absolutely
not a chance.
So, no. So
it's a whole different skill set.
Yeah.
It's a whole skill.
It's a builder thing, right? Like a builder has to do this. And that's why I think we see all these programmers who are natural builders going nuts and like really going for it. And then you have people like me who just want somebody like them to build me what I need so that I can use it with my workflow and get on with my business.
Yeah.
So right now, I think developers are at this, like once again, at the forefront. Your jobs are not at stake right now. Like you've got the skill set to understand what the AI output is and understand if it's doing it correctly. So like the advantages for a developer right now are so far ahead of everybody else. It's wild. Like your jobs are secure. I really, really feel like jobs are secure right now.
If you move with the technology.
Yeah. If you move with the technology, if you're happy about building and seeing what it can do, which a lot of people are right now. I just saw one of your previous interviews with the guy who collects the Ruby AI newsletter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Stolt? What's his name? Matt Stolt?
Mark Stolt? Is that him?
Yeah. So like so much is going on right now and people are really building and understanding it. And these are not things that you could just vibe code your way into, I think.
No. And I have a look at what the team at Reinteractive are doing. Michael, who you might not know, Michael wrote the Mail Gem. So he's been in Rails since very early on. So he's been using exactly that, the OpenClaw or the Claw bot to write applications. He's got this incredibly, not complex, but quite a series of agents, or each of which have a different role. One is the UX and one is does the planning and another does the coding and then another does the QA at the end. And then, like it's quite a sequence, but it gets it all done. And so within a week, build a fully ready, enterprise-ready application. And that's what we're seeing. And you're right, the developers aren't losing their jobs.
I'm just trying to like figure out how I can stay on top of something like invoices or creating the social assets that we need. It's so minor, my needs for it, because what I'm seeing is a lot of people with the Claude bot, like they need an executive mind to help them go, okay, like you have a call, this is what you need to think about. Like it's almost like an online mind that they need to keep control of. And that's my full-time job. So I don't need that. I don't need AI for that. I need to take away like the manual work of like creating this asset, posting on social media, like that thing, so that I can focus on this mind work that I do.
Right.
Whereas I feel like it's opposite for a lot of people. If you're a developer building a platform and then you're also running a business, you want to focus on the application that you're building. So you want to offset all this other stuff. This is like executive work. And for me, it's quite the opposite. Like I want to focus on the executive work, and all this like just busy monkey work is how I think of it. Like take something from this spreadsheet and put it over there and create this social asset. And a lot of that can be automated versus AI. And that's what I'm trying to figure out now. I think automation will get us really, really far, while the builders build the products that I eventually need that I'll happily sign up for.
I think that there is no question that the number of applications, the amount of programming that needs to be done over the next, let's say 5 years, will increase dramatically. As the price of the development comes down, the skill set involved with writing larger volumes accurately, securely increases. So to your point earlier, the jobs are safe, but the role changes slightly.
Yeah, it's like prompt engineering, right? Isn't it what people are calling it now, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that was a term that really took off, but it sort of did for a short time. But yes, that's the job. And I think of it more like a project manager, like someone who's running this team, orchestrating the agents. I like that term. And if you know how to do that and you know what to ask for, then you're winning.
And are you seeing a lot of companies coming in, not necessarily for like build me this application, but build me the team of agents I need to run the team? Have you seen those sorts of requests coming in? Not
yet. No. Mostly what the clients are asking me for is the same things, just done faster.
Yeah, I know that.
So if you can imagine, somebody before would have said, I could have said, okay, this Rails 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 upgrade is 2 to 3 weeks. Now they expect that to be done in a few days, and correctly so, because that is accurate. So that's what I'm seeing at the moment, and that's what the CTOs and the CFOs are expecting from us.
Right.
We're not up to yet, this next phase, which I think is definitely around the corner of, build us this team of agents that's going to do this. Or the other thing that I expect will happen, and I need to be prepared for, is we've built this part of the application. Can you make sure that it's production ready?
Yeah. That's, I imagine, a huge, it's almost like a trust issue with, we vibe coded this. Can you check to make sure?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Human check to make sure.
And I expect there'll be plenty to fix up. I expect there'll be a lot to fix with that sort of thing.
It's great.
Yeah. It's yes. The work is there. It's just adjusting to what this new future is for all of us.
Yeah. It's really exciting times.
It is. Yes. If we can embrace it as such, then it's incredibly exciting. In the meantime, there is still a lot to be done at present. There is still, we still have to maintain our applications. We still have to keep them compliant and keep things running well, because the machines haven't taken over yet. So anybody who thinks that needs to sort of reassess that point.
Yeah. Not yet. They're knocking on the door, though.
Yeah. Well, interesting question then. What do you think that future is? Maybe we fast forward 5 years. What is that future?
That's a great question. And ideally, I want to say, agents are taking care of that monkey work that I was talking about, so that we can do the creative work and enjoy more free time. That's the dream. I think the pie in the sky dream. I don't necessarily think it's going to get to that, but I don't know what it will look like.
Yeah.
Who knows? If anybody says they know,
right.
Very suspicious right now.
We could all guess. I like that concept of we're buying ourselves more free time, because so far
No, human nature. We have free time and then we fill it with more hustle.
Yeah. I was talking to Michael last week, who I mentioned was building his agents out, and he runs basically three very large Rails businesses. And that's day to day running them. And I said to him, when did you find the time to build? And he goes, well, I didn't sleep for 3 nights last week. This is what people are doing.
An opportunity, and then they just stuff it with
Yeah, that's all right. But it's good fun. I'm enjoying it. I love it.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it keeps you up at night and you're excited about it, that's one thing. If it keeps you up at night and you're completely stressed, completely different story. So
yeah. I've enjoyed, Amanda, seeing people's GitHub repositories recently, because I think there's a lot of people like myself. I've been off the tools, I think, so to speak, for a number of years, except for the odd bits and pieces. And in the last 3 to 6 months, I've gone from zero in GitHub from, I think, probably about 2018, maybe 19. I think was the last time I did anything. And then suddenly it goes like this, and I think there's a lot of people doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I think I was talking to Rafael França from the core team, and he was like, oh, we just got our first basically contribution to Rails from Claude, because there's a contribution list. And
right.
We're gonna be seeing a lot more of that, but somehow got tagged as a co-author.
Right.
Because they're reviewing their own thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to put a little guardrail so that, Claude doesn't make it the number one contributor.
Well, I saw there was someone wrote an article about a particular contributor who was submitting PRs for a bunch of different projects all over the place, and at the end of 3 weeks was revealed to be an agent. I think it was over 3 weeks, but no one noticed until it was revealed.
Interesting. So, but across languages, across everything, or was it
that I don't know, and I don't know specifically what projects, but they were large public projects.
Yeah,
open source projects.
What I think is funny and amazing about this whole new territory that we're all just like being shoved into, let's say, like less going, but more being shoved into, is the issues that it's popping up that we've never had to deal with before. Like this, like do we want in open source projects, do we want AI agents or do we want to keep it human? Or like the legal aspects of it, like who then is responsible for the code that you're writing? If it's an agent, like does that go back to fall on the agent? Like it's all these like legal, ethical, social impact that we have to deal with as they arise, and those I think are really, really fascinating. To see like
until you said that, I hadn't thought of that aspect.
Yeah, like maybe there's repercussions, maybe not, but I think it's already we're seeing. One of the things I remember is LLMs training, you know, this conversation, LLMs training on publicly available data, but then are there copyright issues if it takes it as an inspiration, let's say, so to speak? That's another one, like the copyright issues around it. It's all just really interesting problems that I'm glad somebody's out there thinking about, because we're all very busy right now.
Yeah.
So like it's creating jobs as much as it's creating things to work on, challenges, which will eventually create jobs, hopefully.
It's interesting, Amanda, how differently this industry, and I'm talking developers as a whole, have taken to using these tools and running with them and making money from them and producing things, as opposed to, say, the more artistic community. And this is no shade on that community, because they feel rightfully that is stealing their jobs. But in our community, we're used to open source. We're used to doing work that you don't necessarily get paid for because it's for the betterment of the community. And there's been this rush of how do we use the tools instead of a rush of we don't want the tools.
I think the thing, my opinion here anyway, is just that, like, whether you're building an application or you're building the tool that will make the application, it's a smaller leap than, for instance, if I'm making music and then somebody comes in and makes AI generated music. You know, like I've put the work into, well, there's similarities. Like I've put the work into learning music. I've put the work into learning my instruments. And then somebody just comes and pushes a button. There's similarities in that, like, you put the work into learning the language and building applications, but you're still building, right? Like a developer is still building the tools that will make the application. So I think that's why they've picked up so quickly on it. It's the builder mentality, whereas the art mentality is like, this has to come from my own hands, and the output is something either tactile or artistic or creative. And then you're taking that completely away.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
kind of the similarity that I see, or like the difference, and why tech has embraced it so fully. Plus, it is tech, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think we're all used to, you know, the newest things and the best things, and waiting for the next release.
The shiny new thing. Like everybody's playing right now, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Everybody's going out and buying their new Mac Minis because.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. When I was talking to like these people who showed me what the Claude bought, they were like, you know, just like on a spare machine, like the average person doesn't have spare machines sitting around. Like they have the laptop that they use and that's what they use. And then it's like, no, it's big. And then like the gatekeeping of making sure it doesn't have unfettered access to the internet to do whatever it wants. It's like the average Joe is not going to be able to do that. So developers like have fun. And also I foolishly thought before I started to look into it that it could be like something that somebody could set up and share. No, I actually have to run it on my own thing. It's separate. And I was like, oh no, like automation can get me so much further than AI right now.
I for one have been excited to pull out all my old machines and start using them again.
How many old machines do you have? Like developers have like stacks of old machines.
I do. I've got two running at the moment. I've got a 2013 MacBook Pro down here running this screen behind me, which I always talk about. And it's also doubling as a server. So I actually have web apps running off of that So hopefully it doesn't go down. And then I've got remember those old tin can shaped MacBooks, Mac Pros, I mean? Yeah, I've got one of those running as well. I don't like that as much because the fan's super noisy on it. So that one has to stay locked away.
See, like these natural advantages that developers have that it's not for the consumer yet, I guess.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. And people are like running these things on Raspberry Pis as well. Like, $200 or less, $150, and you can have this thing running.
Yeah, that's what somebody told me. Like, just get a Raspberry Pi. Like, I don't know Raspberry Pi. I've never worked with Raspberry Pi before, so then I'd have to figure that out. So somebody, no.
I keep blowing up Raspberry Pis. I buy them and blow them up because I try to attach wires all over them and inevitably do something wrong. So, are
you the reason that they had the shortage recently, or a couple of years back? Where no,
I've only bought a couple of them. I soon figured I was going to lose a lot of money on them. So. Let's talk a little bit about open source because our community thrives on open source. We rely on it, and every single application in Rails certainly is built using open source. Every single one, and I think it's a thing that developers often forget. Is that we owe so much. I mean, some don't. There are some developers who pour everything into their open source projects. But I think it's forgotten by many. Like, we use these things and we forget that someone's built it. Somebody's maintaining it. It's hosted somewhere. It has to be pulled down. Like, what do you think about this? And what do we do to encourage more along this line?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's really nothing like open source. The fact that people are willing to give their time and their energy and the contribution side of it is really, really special. And it's shaped a lot of other industries that are trying to emulate certain aspects of it, like working transparently, the remote work culture, because people around the world are working on the same project who've maybe never met before. Like, with COVID, we were forced to go remote, but tech, thanks to kind of open source and the open source culture that was already there, already was doing this. So then there's other things that are coming up. I see the influence of open source in like a very weird way, but you can draw the line. For instance, like working transparently. There's a lot of industries that still don't work transparently, like don't share their documentation, don't try to get on the same page with everything because it's very like working in silos.
Or if they do, it's at a price.
Yeah, exactly. So I like the influence of it on everyday working culture in other industries. Getting companies who have built on an open source. So for instance, the person who chooses, for instance, Rails, Ruby, any open source language is usually a founder, right? Or like the technical co-founder. As a company scales and grows, the knowledge of what that does for the company that allows it to scale and grow is completely lost as you build up teams that have nothing to do with the code. So it's really hard to, then when you have these big companies, to understand that a portion of that, it would be nice if it went back to the open source in language or community in some way. It's really only when the technical co-founder is still a part of the team and actively involved that they'll come back and say, for instance, for the Rails Foundation, they'll come back and they'll say, we chose Rails, we scaled with Rails, we went through the trenches with Rails, we still love Rails for all the reasons that we talked about before. So we want to support the Rails Foundation. It gets to be a harder sell with the larger companies where, for instance, the engineering management has changed completely. The founder who chose Rails is now a CEO really far from the code. And there's this disconnect of trying to convince, and we have had conversations with, I won't name the companies that I think should be supporting us, the community, not the Rails Foundation, but the community in some way. Because I always preface it with, if you're not supporting the Rails Foundation, I hope you're out there doing something.
Right, do something. Yeah.
Something. Yeah, It's not all about the Rails Foundation. Trying to get them when they have, for instance, stakeholders because especially if you go public, then you have a whole nother audience of stakeholders. What do you call them? Shareholders that you're trying to convince. We're going to put like a chunk of money to this open source language. It gets much, much harder. So we find more success with companies who are in this middle range. Obviously not with our founding core companies like Shopify and GitHub. They understood and they signed on as a core member. But all the rest are like all these different stages because they're still really close to the code and they understand what it has done for them and they're close to the community. These are all the companies that you see on the Rails Foundation like member page. They're all very actively involved still with the community. And I'm trying to find more of those people in those companies has been an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
And convincing them. I don't usually have to convince the companies that have come to us these past 4 years. Like they come to us because they know
because they know, yeah.
Yeah, they know the community. They've seen the work that we're doing. Earlier on, it was, we know the community, we see the idea before we actually started to do much. Companies started to come out of the woodwork to join. Cedar Code in South America being one of the first, App Signal in the Netherlands being a close second. And then the rest, it's, okay, we know the community, we see what you're doing in the community, and we support the work that you're doing. So it's interesting. Open source is special like that. Because sometimes with these conversations, I'm like, okay, in the early days, I was coming from a different mindset of like, what's going to make you happy as a member to continue to fund us? Like we can't do anything for a particular member, but what's like your KPI, so to speak? And they were just like, love of the community.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't put a number on that.
Yeah. No.
How do I make sure you're still going to be happy? And it was never like, I will know when we get more business or when we sell more product. It was never about that. It was just like, just take the money, do what you're doing, make sure it's being used well. And that's good enough for us, which is amazing. And that's really open source. Those are the people who understand open source.
Yeah. For me, this is a recurring theme, whoever I speak to. And probably it's because I bring it up, but I think any company that has made their money using Rails or Ruby for that matter owes something back to that community. And that definitely is in the form of sponsorship of, Rails Foundation, Ruby Central, whatever it might be. But it doesn't have to be that. You might just want to support a local meetup, or you might want to support getting, like how do we get new people into the industry? Maybe there's a path that you want to promote to do that. And all of these things are valid and should be done. Decide what you want to do and get that done. But you're right. There's a lot of companies out there that have grown up with Rails and they don't even necessarily know that today. You speak to them on the phone in a sales call or something like that, and their understanding of the language they've used is marginal.
Yeah. So the Rails Foundation, where possible, when we use an application, a platform, a service of some sort, I always like to try to use one built on Rails. If I can find it, I'll use that one.
Right.
So often I've written, what was it recently? The most recent one, I forget what it was, but I wrote and I said, I run the Rails Foundation. We're there to support Ruby on Rails. Can you tell me if you're built on Rails? Because I couldn't find the information public. And they were like, I got to check. I'm like, what do you mean you got to check? You don't know? Of course, this is like a customer service person. Why would they know? But you would think customer service should be tied to like product in a certain way to be feeding information back, and product should know. So, but yeah, it just gets watered down and less important for people running their day to day unless you're on the engineering team.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was it that started that website recently of companies using Rails?
Andy Kroll, usingrails.com. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like that's a great initiative because that's a resource you can use. You can go to and go, okay, what service do I need or what product do I need, and go and find it there.
Yeah. It's by company name, but not necessarily product.
No, I know. But you can still I've used it like that. I've like looked through it, all the ones like local ones in my part of the world, for example. And gone, oh, you know, I know that person. I know that person. I don't know them. What do they do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I wonder, because I think he pulls that he's been running Bright and Ruby for years now. So I think he pulls that from the companies that send people to.
Right.
You know, like the.
Yeah, I think, he gets people submit to him, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's not necessarily that I don't know. Yeah. There's some companies I would question in there because I was like, oh, that's like for sponsorships is great to approach this company, but it's not necessarily really built on Rails. So sometimes
I did notice that there were a number that said they were in Australia that actually were not. So
yeah, see, like kind of needs a little bit of work sometimes.
Yeah, they might have thought it was just an easy way to get a backlink. I don't know. So when it comes to open source, how do we encourage more people to contribute, to be part of that? There's probably no fast way to do this either. Like a lot of people do it because they love it, because they want to help, or because they just know there's a solution needed.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of contributors. I think for people looking to get more involved in the community, that's a good place to like look at the issues board, test out the issues that they're having, see if you can like recreate that issue, try to help there. I think that's one of the best ways to work specifically on the framework. It's a longer path, of course, because there's no guarantee that if you put a lot of work into a PR, it's going to get merged. You know, like there's bandwidth problems with the core and the issues and the committers team. I think that's one of the best ways to it. But how to convince, I think one thing would be company culture needs to support that. Like your engineering team should be encouraging you to submit PRs back to the framework of any language. I think that's good. I don't think that necessarily always happens. There's a lot of benefits to the company. If you have a solution and it gets back into the framework, obviously that's going to benefit you if you're using the framework or the language. Yeah. But there's a lot of other ways to get involved, you know, like hosting meetups, going to meetups, talking to people. All these non-code things are also interesting. Also, not even the framework. There's all the tools around the framework that you could contribute to as well, right? There's so many gems that need to be maintained.
Oh, absolutely.
Are like single-person maintainers that are overtaxed and trying to have a full-time job next to it.
Yeah, because and sometimes it's not hard to take a gem that's existing out there in the wild and no one's upgraded it and do the work to make sure it's compatible with Rails 8. You know, just do that, submit that PR, and that's probably going to get accepted. If it works, it works, and, you know, everyone's happy. And you're right, there's other ways to help as well. And this is a point I like to make, Amanda, I would love to hear your opinion on this. We often get people in our community, and a lot less, I've got to say, in Rails and in Ruby, but we still get people who, you know, are dissenting about different things, and that's okay. People's opinions are, in fact, valuable. And if you have an idea, of course, speak your mind, of course. But if you want to change the way something is done or you don't like the way it is, rather than talk about it on Twitter, I mean, do that if you want to, of course, but rather than talk about it on Twitter, do something to help.
Yeah. Are you talking about anything in particular?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think, being more, there's a lot of, the Ruby community in particular, it's very vocal, is very, I think, outgoing more than a lot of communities, open source communities that I've seen, the small experience I have with other open source communities.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I just want to be very clear. You know, robust conversation is absolutely necessary. But that sometimes comes off when it's public discourse online on social media. A lot of nuance is lost, and it seems like people shout sometimes when really what we should be doing is maybe having more one-on-one discussions, more personal, private discussions, and like you said, being more proactive, like just not being the change. That's one of those weird But rolling up your sleeves,
Exactly.
Can I give you an example, Amanda? And this is, I spoke to someone last week who absolutely is not controversial in the slightest. Never says a wrong thing. David Hill, who's one of the in the program committee of the Ruby conference coming up, and I asked him about how he started to get involved, and he said he loves going to conferences. So one day he just approached someone and said, "I want to help." So he got to be on the reception desk at a Ruby conference and sign people in. And he loved it so much. He just told everybody, "I love this so much. I want to do more." And so he got more and more until now he's like, a co-chair of the gala and on the program committee and so on. And he started at a position where he could demonstrate that he was valuable and built it up from there. And I think that's so admirable.
It is. I listened to that episode. David's a really nice guy.
He's such a nice
we're
guy.
talking about him doing something at RailsWorld as well. I liked that he did that despite not being comfortable at first, putting himself out there.
Right.
Which is different than a lot of Ruby folks I've seen. But now, whether he likes it or not, he is one of those other Ruby folks now because people know his name. He's, like you said, he's co-chairing RubyConf this year. I think RubyConf, right? Or he's on the program committee.
He's co-chairing the gala, so that's the fundraiser the night before. But yes, and he's on the program committee, so selecting sessions as well.
Yeah, I think this kind of like character arc is why we see so many events in our space. Because somebody goes to an event and they go, "Oh, this would be fun in my hometown or in my city." And like, how hard could it be? So they end up doing this event and finding out, okay, that was hard, but it was also really rewarding and fun. And that's why we see this showing up a lot. So I think it's a very common thing. I see it a lot that people do things like this. I think there's a large silent majority that doesn't still, and it's hard to reach them. Because, for instance, now David is a great example. People know his name. They can reach out to him. He had a podcast even. I think he's still running it.
Yeah, no, still doing good. Yeah.
And we know the characters. Like there's characters that we see a lot. I'm often wondering, like, what's behind, like, who's not speaking up? Who's not coming out to events? Like, where are you based? Where do you get your community from? Where do you know the value of community? Like all these questions, it's another challenge of like how to reach all these people because we have this minority that's quite loud and vocal, or at least visible. Not loud is a bad word, but visible.
Visible.
There's a lot of other people
and active.
that just active. Active is a great way to put it. There's a lot of other voices that we could be talking to.
I would hope that by doing a podcast like this, and there's, obviously other podcasts around me, a lot of great people. And I hope that we can reach some of those people and maybe encourage them to just do a little bit, just reach that little bit and see how it goes for them.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start. So if you're watching this and you haven't done any of these things yet, go to your local meetup, find your local meetup. If you don't have a local meetup, consider hosting one. Next step up, regional meetups. They're more intimate. They're maybe in the 100 to 200 person range. They're all over the world, lots in the States. Maybe consider going to one of them. Reach out to volunteer to see if they need help, if they need to run registration, if you need to pack swag bags, speak anything. What else is after that? Bigger conferences, RubyConf, RailsWorld, Yuruko. These are also events that travel around to different locations. So there's likely one that's coming close-ish to you soon. The benefits of doing this, and in addition to, we get to hear from more people in the community and we get to meet those people. But it also, if you're looking for a new job, it's a networking thing. It's community. It's feeling involved. There's a lot of benefits to the person, but there's also a lot of benefits to the community as well.
Absolutely. There is something I'll say because I want to discuss conferences a little bit more with you. And this is something I repeat it comes up in almost every conversation I have, which is that Rails and Ruby conferences are probably the best tech conferences you'll go to.
They're top notch. I gotta say, it's one of my. I would spend
and we're not biased in the slightest,
year,
of course.
But I would spend the entire year, and I would blow the Rails Foundation budget if I were able to just go to all the conferences all year. I would never be home. I wouldn't need a house because it's like you can go 365 days a year around the world. I think the friendliest community that you can walk into and be warmly welcomed by a lot of enthusiastic people. By the way, this also makes me think in these, when we're relating back to the AI discussion, if we're having, this is something I'm mulling over. How will this impact community, this AI tsunami? Because if what binds us is that everybody has learned Rails and worked in Rails and gone through the trenches as Rails, solved challenges with Rails. That's what brings people together. Like that's the glue that holds it. If we allow agents and working with LLMs to make those decisions, and we're not necessarily learning Rails anymore because we can always just ask the LLM to fix it, or the agent to fix it. What happens to that affinity towards the language that you use? And then how does that knock-on effect? Like, will people still be interested in going to community conferences? Because you're not necessarily learning Rails anymore in this weird world that we don't know if it's coming or not. The LLMs are taking care of it. The agents are taking care of it. So what's the glue that binds people in this future that's coming up soon? These are things I'm like really wondering about and keeping my eye on.
That concept of what we have in Ruby and in Rails is not an accident. It was generated, and this is something I have realized in speaking to the founders of languages, is that they put their personality into their programming language. And that personality shows in the community because it rubs off on all of us, not even intentionally. Like, I don't think if you were to speak to Matt, he would say, well, yes, I'm nice, and so everyone should be nice.
Yeah.
Sort of says that, but
sometimes.
but it's not a requirement, but it is what exists nonetheless. You don't have to be nice. You can be whatever you like and still program in Ruby, but the inevitable result is people are still nice, and it seems to be the result. So it's not about what we do with the language. It's about the people and the culture, and that culture is separate to it. Maybe.
But then how it's the same question behind that, because will the culture translate if I, as a person who has never had any experience with Ruby or Rails, if I choose a language based on what the agent recommends to me, because I have an idea and I just want to do it. Like,
right.
The culture doesn't translate then. The affinity for the language doesn't translate then. So how does that impact community further?
Why would I go to a RailsWorld conference?
Exactly. Because I don't need to learn Rails necessarily, because the agents are handling that for me. I mean, ideally, I would hope people still want to learn Rails and Ruby and the language and the tool that they're working on, or the tool that their tool is working on, let's say. But who knows if that's...
Well, we still need the differentiators. Rails still is the safest because it has those guardrails, because it has the built-in compliances and so on that we expect. Uses less tokens. Like, that is a factor that will become important in the future.
Yeah, for sure. But then it still doesn't translate into culture, I think.
It's not the same thing, is it?
Didn't somebody already make the joke about having a conference for agents? I think so. I think was it Robbie Russell?
Right. Yeah.
Just like basically like a tech conference for agents where like humans don't even have to be there.
It's just... notice. Yeah. Yes. It makes me think though, like what happens to all the personalities that we have? I mean, bringing up Robbie is a great example of that.
Yep. Yeah. It's something to consider, because there's a new wave of developers that are going to be using Rails and Ruby. But what they look like and if they will have the same love for the language, if they'll understand the culture, if if culture is even a thing anymore when you're one step further away from the code. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting to see
because it really is all comes down to this sort of question. If I had a great idea and I've attracted a bunch of investment money, some venture money perhaps, and I had to decide what framework I was going to use, what compels me to use Rails? I know that's the question you're grappling with, and it's the one that we're proposing right now.
Yeah, where's the answer? What's the answer?
If you have an opinion, definitely put it into the comments, because I think it's the one that we're all asking, and we can come up with ideas, but we don't have that finite. This is exactly it.
Yeah, not yet anyway.
Not yet, but I think we're getting closer to it. I know when it's difficult, because obviously if I'm going to write an application, and I do, I've always got an agent doing something while I'm making calls and sending emails. I'm going to use Rails, obviously, but
that's one less person to worry about.
yeah. I know I'm adding to the number, but I think I probably need to try something using a different language, just because I need to know how it goes. Like, what would happen? Is there a lot more that I have to answer? Is there a lot more that I have to be wary of? These are some questions that I think I have. Is it going to work as well? It's been a lot of years since I wrote something in PHP, but maybe I need to do something just to figure it out.
Maybe there's also, I don't know, the influence of AI. Maybe there's less lock in to one language. If it's handling everything, would it be able to have different services in different languages and seamlessly? Maybe that's also
I really hope not. That feels messy to me.
It does feel messy, but right now everything it hallucinates sometimes. So it's kind of messy right now.
Yeah.
More questions. I don't know. I feel like if we wrote out all the questions that this episode is asking, it would be like,
yeah, I know. We're going to meet again in a year and go, oh, we were so
that would
we
be
had
great,
no idea
right?
what we were talking about. But it is this year. This year is such a turning point for all of us, and I don't want the answers to be delivered to me. I want to figure them out and be proactive about the answers and be at the front of delivering those to people positively.
Yeah, I think that's what's adding a lot of stress for developers. The fact that you need to be at the forefront or you're going to be left behind that idea. I think that's a little bit stress inducing, I think.
It is. No, it really is. For developers, for companies like development agencies, because if they don't figure it out over the next few months, they won't exist. Yeah. So yes, it's definitely stress inducing. Tell me about they're all the questions we don't know the answers to. Tell me about some of the programs and initiatives you have running. Obviously, we have RailsWorld coming up in Austin. Yeah. What month is it in? I've forgotten.
It's going to be at the end of September.
Right. Okay.
23 and 24 September, and the day before the Rails at Scale Summit, which is an invite-only smaller event where companies above a certain scale can get together and really have conversations about what they're.
That's a really smart idea.
Yeah. It was something that Toby from Shopify kind of dropped and said, it would be nice if we had this space to talk about, because there's a lot of companies operating at a certain scale that the content at a normal Ruby conference doesn't necessarily apply to them, or it doesn't resonate with them. It's not the challenges that they're facing because they're above. No,
and there's a lot of discussions around, here's an interesting technical thing that I solved, but those companies need to discuss things like, I don't know, deployment and management and latency and things that are different questions. Yeah,
we have a couple solid themes that popped up from the first one. And what really worked there was giving them time to really talk. So a little bit, the content on the stage was short and right to the point, 20 minutes, boom, boom, boom. This is a challenge. This is how we're facing it. And then Q&A. And the Q&A was where people really found value. So having this place, like this smaller, RailsWorld this year will be 1,200 people. So it's hard to have conversations sometimes. It's great. It's fun. It's big. But this is more for if you really need to have a challenge that you're facing and that likely another company at the same scale is facing that challenge. This is where you can talk to them. So we have that on the first day.
Great.
We have 2 days of RailsWorld. Austin is a fantastic city. Have you ever been?
I've never been to Austin, but I've had plenty of clients out of Austin, and it is a city of innovation.
Yeah, it's great. It's got a funky, cool, real vibe to it, and then it's got the tech side of it. It's on a river, so it's got a great outdoors feel to it. It's a music city, so there's live music everywhere. It's got a lot going for it. So the venue is a little different this year, but the city is amazing. The venue is just more of like it's a black box that we have to fill. So that's a challenge that we haven't had to face before. So I'm excited about that. So that's coming up. The CFP is really going out soon. The CFP for both Rails at Scale Summit and RailsWorld.
Awesome.
We have to get the website made. So I'm looking for a developer to make the website. Every year we commission somebody from the community to do that. And we kind of look for a junior, somebody between like work right now, somebody who needs to beef up their portfolio.
Right, that
we
you can promote.
Opportunity for somebody.
Great. Yeah.
So we're looking, we need that soon because the website needs to go live really soon.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of an urgent thing, as well as getting the CFP shipped so we can figure out speakers. Yeah. So
will the CFP be themed, like you're looking for submissions? I mean, AI is probably the obvious answer.
I don't want it to be, it is obvious that like AI is an interesting topic right now. I don't want it to be solely AI. I think it's like such a hot topic right now. Like, for instance, we had a lot of submissions last year related to it, but it was, in the end, we didn't choose many. I think there was max 3 that had anything to do with AI. I didn't see much meat in the submissions. It was mostly like, this is how I'm using an agent to code, where like you could just find that online easily. Plus, like everybody was already playing around with it. And it's hard to find something genuinely interesting and different in the space. Like, how are you using AI in your application, like to run your application? Not necessarily how are you using it to build the application. That's less interesting. But if you're actually integrating it into your application, that's an interesting challenge that I haven't seen much of, at least in the CFPs that came through for us. Okay. So of course that'll be one aspect of it. We have to revisit it. This is something I'll bring up with the board this week when we meet. How should it change based on previous years, based on the content we've seen, based on trends that are happening right now in the world? So we'll have answers to that really, really soon. I don't know yet if it'll change much from previous years, but basically, where's Rails going?
Probably shouldn't, because you've hit on, like, your formula is great and people love it and it grows every year. Like, that's got to be the best, the best criteria. Like, don't change anything. Just do more of it. To fit the venue. Yeah. So next year, if we go back to Europe or somewhere smaller, it's probably going to shrink. So we just max out whatever venue we can based on adding stages, adding people, adding like food and beverage. It's not necessarily that we're going to like grow by 10% every year. Yeah. I would like to cap it at like around 1,200, because I think bigger than that is you get lost in a crowd and you don't have that feeling that you make genuine connections. So I'm looking forward to smaller events. That's why I love all the small regional conferences. That's really the value of those. Whereas I think RailsWorld is like, okay, this is where Rails is going in the future. This is what you want to know. And all the more regional ones I feel like are really good for community. Yeah, fair enough. I think most people will have no idea. In fact, I personally have very little concept of how much work goes into putting an event of that scale on.
Yes. It's a lot of work. It's a full-time job for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so many things to consider and work out so that when people are there on the day, it's all smooth and they don't notice. Yeah. Some of the podcast episodes that I love the most across all the podcasts that we have in the space are with community event organizers who are developers who think like, okay, I'm going to put a conference on. How hard can it be? Like, okay.
How hard was it? Like, it was really hard. It was very time consuming. It took me away from my real job, which is creating, like, either working with clients or if you're an agency or whatever. I love that because they raise all these questions where they're like, oh, we didn't think of this. I'm like, oh, it's a very important thing, XYZ, whatever it is. So it would be like me. This is always a comparison I make. Like, oh, I'm just going to make an app. How hard could it be? Do you know? Like, and then I get into the thick of it and I'm like, holy crap, this is really, but I need I have a go live date that you can't fail because people are coming.
Right. Yeah. Tickets are sold.
It would be the same.
Yeah. What about other activities like you discussed meetups, anything like that, or activities to get new computer science students into Rails? Like, is there anything along those lines?
Yeah, well, this is, again, relates back to the whole AI conversation, because when the Rails Foundation launched 4 years ago, it was a different world, and it was very clear what we should do with the mission was documentation, education, marketing, events. It's very, very clear 4 years ago what that should have been. Put on events that focus on the technical aspect of Rails, documentation, improve the documentation, education, make sure people learn about Rails, so like tutorials, etc. And then marketing, case studies, the podcast that we launched with Robbie Russell, more social media posts, videos. So in light of the AI tsunami, documentation, I think the approach is changing. We've already edited all the existing, or at least we're finishing this year editing the existing documentation. But now I think documentation, do people go to documentation first, or do they go to, do they ask the agent? Yeah. So then how do we make the documentation friendly for agents to read and understand and go to as the first source? Education, are people going to follow tutorials if they're actually asking an agent to build an ALM? So do we need to focus on tutorials, or do we need to, because another thing I wanted to do was a roadmap and a curriculum that we can approach universities to say, this is why Rails, and the case studies, this is why Rails is a great choice. If you want to teach it, this is how you teach it. If you want to just teach or like learn it yourself, here's a roadmap that you follow. Is that still relevant going from now?
That I think is relevant. I was talking to Chris Oliver last week, and he, has built a business around the tutorials and the videos and so on. And he said,
and did the tutorials for the Rails Foundation as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he says it's like terms of viewership, it's just like this, like the number of people actually. Yeah. But there are still people interested. It's just, what are they interested in? And it's adjusting content to that. So, like we talked about some of the things like, what are the questions you have to ask that you might not think of? It's not necessarily how do you write the code so much as what are the considerations you need to have and how do you adjust for those?
Yeah.
How do you correctly make sure that your application is secured, for example?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a huge issue, I think, moving forward from now already, but from now, in the face of everything that LLMs can do on the bad actor side of things as well. So figuring out, what does education look like in this new world? And then marketing, I think marketing, like I said, the messaging will be the same, but maybe the delivery is a little bit different depending on who we're talking to, because we have this middleman to consider. It's the developer, but it's also the agent and the LLM, if it's a public LLM. How do we reach them as well, this agent?
How do you market to the agents? That's an interesting question.
Who's our audience now? Because before it was existing Rails developer, people who are new to developing, who have just learned it in university or a boot camp, and then people who don't even know yet, but they have an idea. And Rails is a good idea for those people as well. If you're not technical yet, but you want to learn so that you could get your idea live in an MVP. So, but now, like, maybe the audience is changing a little bit. Who are we speaking to now? So these are all really interesting challenges that we need to figure out if we want to continue to attract new people into the community. Yeah,
absolutely. It's such an interesting time to be alive.
Amanda, more questions.
What a time.
So I don't know right now. Like, I don't know, but I'm excited to figure it out.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I love conversations like this is because we're right at that coalface for right now. And we get to have a real conversation about it. Like, this is a real genuine conversation. It's not a conversation with the LLM. It's not an AI generated, this is still, there's future in what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
As we
Humans
speak.
are still speaking. Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's right.
For now.
And people want to listen, and engage, and, people contact me all the time and say, I listen to your podcast and I want to learn Rails because of it. Like, I love that.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, that's a purpose, right?
Great. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So more stuff like that. And like, this does that marketing aspect. I always say, like, marketing is a part of the Rails Foundation. We're producing videos, more to come. We're producing the case studies. We have a podcast, but it can't just come from the Rails Foundation. It has to be more widespread than that. It has to come from the community as well, just like the tooling, everything that people are experimenting with. But luckily, we have a really good community for that, like community that loves to talk and loves to chat with people, loves to meet, loves to have a podcast, loves to go to community events. So we're well positioned for the community to do the marketing.
Oh, we totally are. It's the reason, Amanda, I started doing this podcast is because I'd be on like a sales call with somebody and I'd forget to sell and they would forget to buy and we'd just be talking like we're talking now. And I get to the end of an hour and go, now, what were we supposed to do in this call again?
Like, oh, shoot.
Yeah. And then people go, oh, we should have just recorded that and published it. Like, people would want to listen to this. And it's true. Yeah. Amanda, I think I had about 100 questions and I asked you maybe one or two of them, but that's okay. We'll do this again sometime.
I answered them with 150 more questions.
Yes, which I love. Just tell me before I do finish, is there anything that you wanted to say in this podcast, in this conversation that I didn't let you say or that you needed to say?
If anybody has any strong thoughts about what we talked about the future of the community, what that looks like, education, marketing, events, ideas. We have a suggestion page at the Rails Foundation. You can always reach out to Amanda@rubyonrails.org or foundation@rubyonrails.org with ideas. I read all the suggestions that come in. We have a lot of good suggestions, always aligned, most of the time, already aligned with what we're doing. But this is a future that we're heading into that we don't know yet. So if anybody has ideas or suggestions on anything we talked about, I'd love to hear from you, whether it's an email or a quick call or a chat or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they have considered maybe sponsoring, who should they contact?
Yeah, it's like you're saying with like buying and selling. If you want to sponsor, please also get in touch or becoming a member of the Rails Foundation. There's also solid things you can do if you have a company that you can contribute back to the Rails Foundation. Please get in touch.
We'd definitely encourage all of that. Great. Thank you very much for joining me today. This podcast is brought to you by Reinteractive, where we help organisations design, build and maintain software systems that stand the test of time. If you're a technology leader thinking about what's next for your platform, your team, or even your career, you're in the right place. Subscribe to Technology for Humans, and we'll see you in the next conversation.